Today's top news summary as of November 11, 2025. World Affairs. Climate Summit opens in Brazil. The COP30 Climate Summit has begun in Belém, Brazil, running from November 10 to 21, 2025. World leaders and delegates are gathering amid heightened concerns about global warming, accelerating extreme weather, and a fracturing international consensus on climate action. The summit is expected to focus on who pays for climate adaptation, how to address emissions in developing countries, and ways to rebuild cooperation. Why it matters: the outcomes could shape policy, investment flows, and international relations for years. Countries with fewer resources are calling for more financial support, while major economies face pressure to raise their ambition. Tip and insight: watch for emerging language around loss and damage compensation, and how emerging economies position themselves versus developed ones. Implication for Korea: as a developed country and major industrial player, South Korea will likely face both pressure to raise its contributions and opportunities in clean tech exports. Shockwaves in politics and media. In the UK, the BBC's Director General and Head of News resigned after criticism over an edited documentary about Donald Trump. This signals tensions around media independence, political bias, and the role of public broadcasters. Meanwhile, in India, a car explosion near the historic Red Fort in Delhi killed at least 8 people, heightening concerns over security ahead of state elections. Why it matters: these incidents reflect how media, politics, and public trust intersect globally. In democracies and non-democracies alike, the handling of media accountability and security incidents matters for stability and governance. Tip and insight: for those tracking media freedom and geopolitical risk, pay attention to how governments respond to media crises and how security incidents escalate in election cycles. Implication for Korea: as Korea navigates its own media challenges and regional security environment, these examples highlight the importance of transparency and credible media institutions.
Economy and finance. Global markets rally on U.S. shutdown hopes. Global stock markets surged on Monday, driven by optimism that the longest U.S. government shutdown in history may soon end. Major indices including the S&P 500 and Nasdaq posted healthy gains, powered by hopes that federal funding will be restored and economic disruption contained. Why it matters: government shutdowns cause disruptions. Federal employees furloughed, services paused, data releases delayed, and confidence shaken. A resolution would relieve one uncertainty and help stabilize markets. Tip and insight: investors often breathe a sigh of relief when shutdowns end, but the underlying damage to growth, sentiment, business activity may linger. Implication for Korea: a rebound in U.S./global markets tends to support risk assets, which could aid Korean exporters and financial markets. Wage growth diverges: a K-shaped economy. In the U.S., low-income workers are now experiencing the weakest wage growth in a decade, while higher-income earners continue to pull ahead. This reflects a K-shaped recovery. Different segments of the economy diverge rather than converge. Why it matters: when wage growth slows for a large segment of the population, consumption suffers, inequality rises, and broader economic recovery may falter. Tip and insight: look for policies addressing wage stagnation, minimum wage adjustments, tax relief, labor market support. These can influence consumption and inflation trajectories. Implication for Korea: as Korea deals with its own wage growth and inequality issues, the U.S. pattern provides a cautionary tale of segmented recovery. Gold and commodities move on rate expectations. Gold prices climbed nearly 3% to a 2-week high, propelled by soft U.S. economic data that bolstered bets on impending interest rate cuts. With weaker growth, investors anticipate central banks may ease policy, which typically supports gold. Why it matters: interest rate expectations influence asset allocation. Lower rates make non-yielding assets like gold more attractive. Inflation and growth data remain pivotal. Tip and insight: pay attention to the yield curve, central bank commentary, and inflation reports. They affect both commodity prices and FX markets. Implication for Korea: as Korea's central bank monitors global trends, shifts in USD, commodity prices, and global liquidity impact import costs and export competitiveness.
Technology and innovation. Quantum tech at an inflection point. The MIT Quantum Initiative announced that quantum computing breakthroughs are moving from lab to practical application. This includes potential advances in sensing, navigation, encryption, and computational power. Why it matters: quantum technology promises transformational change in industries ranging from defense to logistics to pharmaceuticals. Early movers may gain significant competitive advantage. Tip and insight: companies engaged in quantum should be watched, not just for progress but for commercialization plans, partnerships, and funding. Implication for Korea: Korea's tech sector may need to consider quantum readiness, skills, infrastructure, regulation, to ensure competitiveness in the next wave of tech. From automation to orchestration in staffing tech. In staffing and human capital management, the next big wave is not simply automation, but orchestration, coordinating multiple AI/automation tools in a seamless workflow. Why it matters: as firms adopt more AI and automation, success depends less on single tools and more on integrating them into smart processes. This could reshape workforce management, outsourcing, and corporate productivity. Tip and insight: HR tech and enterprise software vendors may shift focus to platforms that help orchestrate workflows across tools, an important trend for procurement, tech adoption, and vendor evaluation. Implication for Korea: Korean firms in manufacturing, services, and tech should monitor enterprise software trends to stay agile as workforce models evolve. Preparing for consumer tech deals. The Amazon hardware pipeline, Echo, Fire TV, etc., has signaled upgrades and is positioning for strong sales ahead of Black Friday. With AI-powered home devices and streaming hardware upgrades, the consumer tech wave is being primed for year-end. Why it matters: the consumer electronics sector often sees big swings around key shopping periods. Supply chain and inventory strategies matter for global markets. Tip and insight: for consumers, this may mean attractive deals. For manufacturers/suppliers, it indicates when to ramp or adjust output. Implication for Korea: Korean electronics firms, components, display, semiconductors, could benefit from increased demand for the hardware driving this consumer wave.
Summary and takeaways. In short, on the world stage, the COP30 Climate Summit opens amid high stakes, and geopolitical tensions continue to surface in media and security arenas. In the economy, optimism is lifting markets thanks to a potential end of the U.S. shutdown, but deeper structural issues, wage inequality, and uneven recovery persist. Commodities like gold are also responding to rate cut expectations. In technology, major shifts are visible. Quantum tech is transitioning toward real applications, staffing tech is evolving beyond automation, and consumer electronics are gearing up for big holiday plays. For Korea, the intersections are many. Global climate policy affects export markets and energy strategy. U.S. economic developments influence trade and financial flows. Tech transitions signal both threats and opportunities for national competitiveness.